welcome to the Glen Ferris Inn with Dining with Dan and Becky here at the inn tonight. As my guest, I have Tom Willis. Tom, say hello to our guest.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me, Dan. Happy to be here.
All right. Tell us a little bit about your background and where you live and where you go to school and all that kind of stuff, or where you went to school.
Okay.
And what you do now.
It'd be my pleasure. So I live in a small town called Hedgesville, West Virginia. It's up by Martinsburg in the Eastern Panhandle. And for work, I work for the West Virginia National Guard. I've been with them for about 20 years, and getting close to the 20-year mark. And so we're thinking about what's going to be next. I joined the Guard in 2000, and it's become much more than a Guard job. But I've enjoyed it, worked with the best people possible, and so that brings us to date.
So you're a full-time Guard person. In other words, you don't work just on the weekends. You work every day.
That's right. So I started off working on the weekends in a weekend capacity, and then the summer training, and now I'm working full-time as a West Virginia National Guardsman.
I was once in the Guard myself. After I got out of the Marine Corps, I went in the National Guard to help me get through college and the extra income back in the day, and that was 1972, 73, 74, in those areas.
Yeah.
And was in the 19th Special Forces out of Charleston.
Okay.
So I enjoyed being in the Guard. Well, let's just go back in the kitchen and see what Becky's cooking up for us, and we'll get our dinner going, okay?
Sounds like a plan.
All right.
Welcome again to Dining with Dan and Becky at the Glen Ferris Inn, and as always, welcome to our beautiful kitchen. Tonight, Dan is going to have guests in a small dinner, like always, and his menu is a cranberry pecan salad, a cabbage roll, squash casserole with cheese, potato croquettes, and a deep dish blackberry cobbler. All right, so now, as I have discussed time and time again, what you need to do is consider the time it takes. The cranberry pecan salad doesn't take much time, and the wait staff is doing that for me, thank goodness. The cabbage roll, I'm not fixing an American cabbage roll, I am fixing a German cabbage roll, and it is called halloupsi because I like the sauce on it better. Most cabbage rolls are the same, and I have very few recipes for a cabbage roll that does not contain tomato soup, and I prefer completely making the sauce that goes on this. The squash casserole with cheese will take about 45 minutes. Oh, the cabbage roll takes 2 hours. The potato croquettes, maybe 15 minutes, and the deep dish blackberry cobbler, again, it takes about an hour. So what we need to do is to start the cabbage roll first. So let's get out our ingredients and let's get started with it. Now, what you have is 2 pounds of ground beef, 2 pounds of ground sausage. You really need to keep these in the refrigerator until time to assemble your cabbage roll because of the bacteria, the parasites, and anything else that's flitting around. All right. For the cabbage roll itself, you are going to have salt and pepper, butter, rice, and minced onion. So let's get this out of the way for a minute. All right, the first thing you want to do, guys, is to brown your onion in your butter. So let's get a saucepan and go to the stove. We put the butter in first and we melt it. There's not much butter in this, thank goodness. Now the sauce has some more butter. So we are just going to let that melt and become a little bit bubbly, and then we're going to add the onions. Now while we're waiting for that, I want to tell you about a few little tricks. It is difficult to get your meat mixture uniform when you just pull it out of the refrigerator, but you do not want to leave it out so that it gets to room temperature and stays that way for a time. So what you can do when you take it out of the refrigerator, you can put it in a sealed bag, like a Ziploc bag, and put it in warm water. That doesn't give any bacteria present time to multiply, or you can heat it in the microwave. Now, if you heat it in the microwave, be very careful because you do not want any part of it to get cooked. You just want it to become soft and squishy so you can equally distribute all of your ingredients in your meat. So, all right, our butter is melted. And let's put the onion in. Cabbage rolls are a real treat for us because it's something that you just do not make every day of the week. You have to deal with the cabbage leaves. You have to make the filling, then you have to bake it off, and then you have to make the sauce. And it is not extremely easy entree to make. Let me turn that down just a little bit. So while that's cooking, I'm going to go ahead and heat up the ground beef in the microwave to show you what I was referring to. All right, this is your ground beef. It is fairly firm and rather uncompromising. So what we're going to do is heat it for 1 minute, then we will mix it up, and then we will heat it again. Gloves. There. Let me stir the onions. Oh, they're getting there. Now all you want to do is just make these translucent. They'll finish cooking in the oven because your cabbage rolls need to cook 2 hours. So we have the rice, we have the salt and pepper, and I had the cabbage leaves. Just give me a minute. Boy, I didn't know a minute took so long. All right, we are going to take that out. And now this isn't going to be very hot. All you want is the fat that is in your ground beef and in your sausage to get soft enough to make it a very easy material with which to work. All right, our onions are almost ready. I think of all the cabbage rolls that I have made over the course of my life, this one is my most favorite. A mixing bowl and our ground beef. If you look at this, you can see where the meat juices, see them here? And the fat is beginning to work out. And when you squish it, it's going to be easier to work everything in, and that is what you want. Okay. Now, before you do anything else, what I am going to do is to mix the salt and pepper with the onion. Remember, if you do it in small amounts, and I'm going to put the rice, and this is 1 cup of long grain rice, and I'm just going to stir it and let it sit here in the heat. So you have a much better chance of your salt and pepper and the rice and the onion being equally distributed throughout your meats. All right, so there we are. Fire is off so it will not brown. The rice is going to be absorbing the butter. It's going to make it very good. So, now before I do anything else, look how easy this is to work. I have got it warm enough to where it is no longer a cold slab straight out of the refrigerator. It was not sitting out at room temperature where bacteria can grow in it. And look how easy it is to mix up. I found out about this little trick making a meatloaf. And then I started using it with my meatballs and every meatloaf I've ever made, the stuffed pepper cups, and now this is the first time I've used it with cabbage rolls. So here we are. Now look at that. Evenly distributed, no large chunks of ground beef in it at all, no large chunks of the sausage at all. None of it is browned, it's just soft and workable. Now, what you have to be careful of, if you use it in the microwave, you have to be careful and not cook any of your meat. I do it 1 minute, and if it isn't soft, I go up to 30 seconds twice, and a max of 2 minutes is about all your meat can take. So let's get this back over here. And let's add your onions, your rice, and your salt and pepper. Boy, that is one warm pan. So, another glove. You can do this with a spoon if you want, but I just think you get a more equal consistency with your gloves and doing it with your hand. And now your rice is going to be cooking in that oven. Remember, it has to cook for 2 hours. This looks almost like a meatball, except that there are no breadcrumbs in it. So here we are. Easy to make because we slightly warmed the meat. So, okay, let me go get a pan, a measuring device, and our cabbage leaves, and then we will be ready to make the rolls. I'll be right back. The next thing that you're going to do to your cabbage rolls, you are going to take 8 to 12 outer leaves off of your head of cabbage. Then you are going to parboil them in rapidly boiling salt water for 2 to 3, 4 minutes. Now you do not want them to get so done that they fall apart. And with the sharp knife, you need to remove the vein that goes up the center of your cabbage leaf, and you will have, something like this. Right now, depending on the size of your cabbage leaf, that depends on how much filling you're going to put in. I'm going to start out with 1/3 cup, put it down here on the full portion, and I think I can probably do another. Nope, I can't. So I would say that probably 1/2 cup would be enough. Now what you're going to do, you're going to roll this up like a jelly roll. You're going to pull the cut side over and tuck it into the bottom. Cut side over and tuck it in. Then you are going to fold one edge over, the other edge over, just like an egg roll, and then you are going to roll it up. Then you are going to put it in your baking pan. Okay? So you have got one cabbage roll, and You know, depending on the size of the rolls, you may want to make 1 or 2 for each person. Now, I think that if I had this to do over again, I would have taken the parboiled cabbage out and laid it out on paper towels to dry. And it doesn't really matter because you're going to fill this with water. So we used 1½ scoops, which is just about 1/2 a cup. So we're going to put it in the center. Now each one of these will be a different size depending on the size of the leaf. You cannot overfill it. Okay, that one's pretty darn full. All right, let's see if we can get it to fold over. All right, we're going to fold that one over, fold this one over, and then we're going to roll it, tuck the sides in because there was not enough to tuck in, and put it in the pan. Now, I would like to fix about 10 of these tonight, but we will see. Now, this is a nice piece of cabbage. Again, do not forget to cut the vein out that goes up the center. It's very tough. And unlike last time, we're going to straighten the leaf up a little bit. And the longer you cook this in your pan of boiling water, the more tender the leaf is and the more susceptible it is to tearing. And these are delicate to start with. That's why you very seldom find cabbage rolls in a restaurant or at a family reunion. All right, now you're going to make the tube. You're going to fold this down, fold this down, fold one side in, and fold the other side in. And you're making a little bundle here that will completely enclose the meat. Then carefully roll it up and tuck it in. All right, that's 3. All right, I'm going to go over it one more time, and then I begged Bruce to finish making them for me. He is certainly an excellent helper. You guys should taste some of his cooking. All right, we're going to do 1. Oh, I didn't pull out the cabbage. Very delicate, very easy to tear, so I'm going to have to leave that alone. We're just going to have to stick with 1. Fold up your leaf, tuck the sides in if you can, and then we're just going to roll it down like we would an egg roll. All right, and 1 more, and then I will be asking Bruce to finish this up. So, now this one is a nice one. I think it's easier to fold these leaves out if you do it before you cut the stem out. All right, we're going to use 1. And 1/2. Make a little tube out of it. You're going to roll one edge down, the other edge down. You're going to fold their sides in, just exactly as if you were making an egg roll. And then you are going to roll it up and then put it seam side down in your pan. So this is what we have so far. Whoops. Now we're going to finish all 10 of these, and then we're going to all but cover it with water, put foil in it, and then put it in the oven. Then it needs to cook for about 2 hours at 350, and then we will make the sauce that goes on top, and this will be a done deal. So give me a minute to get this done and to clean up my mess, and then we will look at that blackberry cobbler. I'll be right back. All right, the next thing that we're going to be looking at is preparing the deep dish blackberry cobbler. Now, we have made a deep dish peach cobbler before, and you use the very same batter recipe and techniques with this, only instead of peaches, of course, you use blackberries. So I have a cup of butter here at room temperature, and my room temperature is pretty warm, so I'm going to put it in the oven to completely melt. With the cobbler, you have three distinct layers. You have your butter layer, then you put your batter layer, and you do not mix them together, and then after that you put your blackberry layer, and it's really a very nice dish. So we are going to have, yeah, that works. Yep, just almost cover them with water and put them in the oven for me, please, Bruce. And I assume we need foil on it. Okay, so we have got here 2 cups of sugar, white, 1.5 cups of self-rising flour. Now, that has your salt and your baking powder in it, guys, so don't add extra. Let me get off some more of this. And then we have got 1.5 cups of milk. Now, we use 2% milk. You can use whole milk or skim milk. And we're going to add that, and we are going to whisk it until everything is uniform and nice and creamy. And the deep dish cobblers are the easiest to fix of any of them. You don't have to fix a crust and roll it out. You don't have to fill your crust. You don't have to put the top on it. All you do is make a cake-like batter. All right, let's get a few more lumps out here. And that is it. We have done everything necessary except to put it in the pan. So, let's see if the butter has melted. Almost. So, let's just take a minute out while the butter is melting, and I'll be right back. All right, let's check our butter and see if it's melted. Remember, that is the very first step. I could have probably melted this in the microwave. Now look at that. Isn't that some nice looking butter? So let's get this shut so our cabbage rolls will continue cooking. Now, for your next step, you are going to take your batter and just dump it in. You want to cover the whole bottom of your pan. You're going to scrape the sides pretty good. And there we are. Now I have got 8 cups of blackberries, 3 cups of sugar, just resting, making syrup. So now with the peaches, you just layered your peaches and then dumped your syrup on it. Blackberries, we will do that as much as we can. So let's look at this. Ouch, that is so hot. Here I go, doing silly things. All right, we're going to completely cover the top with our blackberries. All right, well, Ricky found the recipe for a blueberry buckle, and we tried it, excuse me, we tried it with blackberries, and it was so marvelous. If we ever do breakfast breads on a buffet, we're going to do that blackberry buckle, and in addition to it, we're going to do our orange coconut rolls that we made on the previous breakfast buffet that we had. All right. This may be too many blackberries, but the only way you can find out is to do it. So, let me get rid of the spoon. And you are going to dump the rest of this, juice and all, on top of your deep dish cobbler. All right, let me move this. Don't want that to burn on our pan. All right, now look at this. Now, isn't that a nice dish? Oh, I can't wait for that to be finished. And you can serve it plain. You can serve it with a mixture of heavy cream and milk. You can mix it with ice cream. And here is our dip dish, blackberry cobbler, ready to bake. Oh, now see, I almost forgot again. I have to cover it with foil. Have our foil. You want to cover this because it needs to cook at least 45 minutes to an hour, and you do not want the crust of it getting brown. Put your shiny side down and fold it kind of loose tight. And then we're going to put this in the oven, and we are set to go. Okay. All right, so why don't you guys go get a hot cup of coffee or tea and sit down and relax a little bit while I get us set up for our next dish. For the first step in your squash casserole, you need to take 6 cups of squash and parboil it. Now, you do not want this cooked so much that they get soft and they start falling apart. You just want to take the stiffness out. And I've already done that. Then you're going to use half a cup of butter, and this has already been melted once, so it's conforming to the shape of my container, and you're going to melt that. I think I can get one more scrape out of here. All right, this needs to melt. Out of all the things that was unexpectedly good was this recipe the first time I made it. You are going to have half a cup of onion, which this is a whole bunch more. So we're going to add that. This is a 2-cup bowl, so if I add that much, that should be about half a cup. Sorry, I generally measure everything. All right, let's get this out of the way. All right. Now we want to cook this until the onions become translucent. Now remember, they're going to finish cooking in that oven because this casserole has to bake 45 minutes. So, all right, still needs to cook a little bit longer. Oops, sorry. All right, the next thing we're going to do is to add the parboiled squash. And we are going to mix it up as we add it. Now you want the onions to become as evenly dispersed with the squash as possible. Dan grew this squash out of his $5,000 garden. I am so squashed and cucumbered out that I do not know what I'm going to do with the rest of it. I guess I can freeze the squash, and I made pickles with the cucumbers. But the thing that gets me is, what am I going to do with his 15 pumpkin plants? No one needs 15 pumpkins. I guess he's going to eat a lot of pumpkin pie, pumpkin bread, pumpkin soup, and oh, I could make pumpkin butter, couldn't I? Forgot about that. All right, we're still adding, still stirring. Guess I need to quit talking and work, don't I? Now, when this comes out of the oven, you want your squash to still be firm enough that it looks like squash. You don't want little pieces here and there. You don't want it cooked to a mush. So, let's get this out of the way. We are going to carefully stir this in. Get some onions throughout it, and that pan is hot. Now that's twice today. Okay, looking good, looking good. So let's take this and put it in our multi-purpose baking pan, cake pan, casserole dish. Now in a restaurant, these are called half pans. The ones that are twice this size are called a full pan. So, and I don't guess anyone wanted that one. You've got plenty of onions throughout it. You have got your squash. Smells pretty good too, guys. All right, now let's see what our next step is. You are to combine salt and pepper, eggs. This is 2 eggs that have been beaten, sugar, and we're going to mix that up. So here we go. We are going to dump this all over your squash mixture. It is going to mix with the butter at the bottom of the pan, and it's going to set up more or less like a breakfast casserole, the eggs in it. Now, this is what I added extra. In our broccoli casserole, I'm always adding, or I add, Swiss American cheese slices, and I add just the regular yellow American cheese slices. So when I made this, I tried it with the Swiss American, and it was extremely good. So I'm going to cover the surface of this, with the Swiss American. And for the sides, I am going to break it in half. John, could I have one more slice, please? Thank you so much. And we need to cover this one little spot. So here we are. 1 squash casserole, and it contains squash, butter, onions, then an egg mixture that consists of sugar, salt, and pepper, and then we've covered it with the Swiss American cheese. We're going to bake this off for 30 to 35 minutes, and then we are going to put just a sprinkle salt and pepper, a cheddar cheese, and just a sprinkle of breadcrumbs, and put it back in the oven until it melts. So again, let me get another piece of aluminum foil. You think I would learn to have that handy. Thank you, John. John was reading my mind. So, the timer is on 45 minutes. Remember, shiny side down because it reflects heat into your food better. And this will come out at about 10 till. All right, let's see where we are on Dan's menu. Okay, we have got the cabbage rolls, the squash casserole, the deep dish blackberry cobbler. So all we have to do are the potato croquettes. So let's get everything out that we need for it, and we will go from there. Let me get rid of my cookbook. Welcome back. It's time for us to look at the potato croquettes. Now these are stuffed, and we are going to stuff them with a mixture of green onions, celery, ham, and cheese. All right, now because of that, and all they are is deep fried, I'm going to try to cook these to soften them up. I thought about microwaving them, but if you don't add water to it, they burn, and I didn't want to have the extra water in our potatoes. So we're just going to let these get soft while we go ahead and look at the other ingredients that we need for our potatoes. Now, these are similar to the old-fashioned potato cakes that you use your leftover mashed potatoes on. Now, we fixed mashed potatoes around noontime so that they would be cool, how about cold, to the touch, so that you could stand working with them when you are making your potato patties. All right, we've got milk, we have got salt and pepper, cheese, flour, ham, eggs, and breadcrumbs. So let's look at what we're doing here. Okay, in your potatoes, the first thing we're going to do is add our salt and pepper. So let's get that done. Then we are going to add our egg. And before we add anything else, we are really going to mix this up well. Let me go stir my celery and my green onions. I'll be right back. Because I surely don't want them to stick. Dan teases me really unmercilessly if I burn something, and he should be pretty well used to it. All we want to do is get these soft so they can finish cooking whenever we are frying the croquettes. Now, I'm going to turn this fire up a little bit. Okay, so we're going to mix this up. Now you want to mash these by hand so it can have just a little bit of the potato lumps in it. One, so any guests you have will know that you have potato peelings in the back and not an empty box. And two, it gives it just a little bit extra flavor. Then I am going to take the flour. Whoops. Even though the flour doesn't need to be refrigerated, you want to cover it up to prevent any contaminants. So let's add the flour. Now we're going to mix that up. So far we have got mashed potatoes with your milk. You have got flour, salt and pepper, and that is it. Okay, Now, we are going to add small chunks of ham to our green onions and our celery. Now this, once you do it, you do want to refrigerate until it's time to use it. Now, as soon as all of this gets hot, we are going to make a croquet. And what we're going to do is make half a potato cake, then we're going to stuff it with this mixture, and then we're going to finish the potato cake. We're going to roll it in crumbs, and I'm going to mash it a little bit to where it will stay together just a little bit better, and then we're going to fry them. So let's get these made. I think since we are putting cheddar cheese in this too, that I'm going to fix a cheddar cheese sauce for the top of it. Not very much, just a garnish. Okay. Now you want to take it off while your onions still have that bright green. You do not want them to start turning a dark green. Okay, so let's get this off. All right, we're going to try to make these with an ice cream scooper so that they'll all be uniform size. A restaurant prefers their ingredients to be uniform. All right, then I am going to add just a little bit of our filling. Now remember, this filling has got green onions, celery, ham, and cheddar cheese in it. And you don't have to add very much, but we do want it in the center. Okay, and then we are going to finish filling it. And then I am going to take this and drop it into our breadcrumbs. Oh, look at that, just perfect. And let me get a glove. These are going to be cooked, so it doesn't matter if I touch them with anything on it. Now I'm going to mash them down slightly. I'm going to cover both sides with the breadcrumbs. Turn it. Oh, do not break it. And there I have one very pretty little croquette. I need to try to give it some height here. So I'm going to take it and mash it together. And there we are. Isn't that pretty? Just look at that, guys. All right, let me do a few more, and then I'll beg Bruce to help me out again, or John. All right, you only want this half full. You're going to fill it with your stuffing. Then you are going to completely encapsulate it. Then you are going to drop it in the crumbs. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. We're going to turn it. And this time I'm not going to mash it down until I get it over here. And there you are. So, I think that we're going to serve 2 per guest. Or until I run out of filling. I'm probably putting too much in. All right, we're going to drop it. We are going to cover it with the breadcrumbs. Then we're going to lightly mash it. So I'm going to pass this to Bruce for him to finish them and deep fry. And in the meantime, I will fix some on the stovetop so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. All right, now, in your deep fryer, if you have a fry baby or fry daddy or whatever it is, you want it to be between 3 and 350, preferably 350. So, here we go. Dan has no use for a deep fryer at all, and I'm too lazy to change the oil and make sure everything about it is sanitary, so I don't have one. This way, I don't have to worry about a kid dumping it over on him. All right, now you want your oil to be hot before you put these in. Now what we're gonna do here is create a cheddar cheese sauce to drizzle on the top. That way, we'll have a little bit of extra cheese in this. It'll match the cheese that's inside, and we should have a very pleasant dish. All right, let me see. If you want to see if your oil's hot, just drop a few breadcrumbs in it, and if it bubbles, we're going to give it about half a minute. Look at that. Okay. All right, let's get these in. Now you have to be very careful with these. They are just as delicate as the potato cakes your mom or your grandma used to make for breakfast out of leftover mashed potatoes. So, oh, I sure mashed that one, didn't I? All right, now be careful putting it in. Most grease burns occur putting something in and taking something out of your hot grease. You want to be careful. Reshape it and drop it. Well, this one's falling apart on me. I bet you my sister and I fixed 1,000 potato cakes in the course of our lifetime. Whew. All right, so we're gonna let those cook on one side, then we're gonna turn them, and then we're gonna start our sauce. And I will be right back. I think these are ready to be turned, and boy, this is tricky. There. Donuts were easier because these are so delicate you don't want to break them apart. All right, so let's do one more. All right, I'm going to scoot that over into the hot spot, and there we are. Now, while these are cooking on that side, I am going to start the white sauce. Remember, we plan on serving 2 of these, and then we're going to drizzle them with a cheddar cheese sauce because I have cheddar cheese inside. So, let's get our butter melted. And remember, for a good roux, you want about equal amounts of butter and flour to start with, or your oil or your bacon grease, whatever you're working with. Now what I like to do is add it a little bit at a time. So as soon as this starts bubbling, I will add my flour, let it work together a little bit under heat, then add the milk, and then I'm going to dissolve the cheese in it until it gets to the consistency and the color and the texture that I want. So, all right, it's bubbling. Now I'm going to add this flour a little bit at a time because I do not want to add too much and have to keep adding butter, then more flour. You know, there we are. All right, I'm going to let that brown just a minute while I turn the potato cakes. Aren't these pretty? Nope, not ready yet. Now, all we're doing is a basic white sauce made out of a flour-based roux and are either 2% or whole milk. Now be careful dumping this in. That is one hot fire, if I didn't spill it all over the place. Okay, so there we are. soon as this thickens up a little bit, we're gonna add the cheese. Let me turn these. Oh, it's gonna break on me. And Donna's on vacation, so I can't say that one's Donna's. All right, and there we are. Absolutely perfect. All right, now do not add your cheese to this until it starts thickening up, okay? Because you do not want to have to cook your cheese over an open fire and take a chance on it scorching. So I'll leave this alone. I'm going to take these out, and I'll be right back with the platter. Now, Donna and I make a cheese sauce that is a mixture of 2 or 3 cheeses for when we have a breakfast buffet and they request a cheese sauce for their potatoes or their eggs. And we make it out of cheddar. We use something similar to Velveeta. And we do American. And every now and then I do the Swiss American because I just like how it tastes and I like its texture. Now, this is getting fairly thick. So I am going to go ahead and add the cheese. It will not have to cook long for this to thicken up. In fact, your cheese is a thickener also. So I'm going to turn this fire down and we are going to stir this up. And look at this, guys. A very delicate, beautiful, pale cheddar cheese sauce. Now that's gonna go on top of our potato cakes. So let me put it over here under the heat lamp. Boy, have I made a mess today, so that it'll stay warm. And the last thing we have to do is the haloopsy. So give me a minute while I get another saucepan and I'll be right back. The last thing we have to do is the sauce for the cabbage rolls. And we are going to be making a tomato-based sauce. I think that's pretty well standard. And it's going to consist of onions. So we're going to cook those till they're translucent first, because you do not want to cook this so long that your tomatoes break down. And if you don't cook them a little bit first, that's exactly what's going to happen. So now we're going to add our onions. Now we want to cook them till they are translucent. And your onions will no longer be white. They'll be not quite see-through, but you can tell that they've gone through a color change. So we're going to let these cook while I get everything else out. All right, we want lemon juice, flour, and our tomatoes. So let's see what we've got here. All right, we're going to brown the onion in our butter until it becomes translucent. And it's getting there. Boy, that is one potent onion, guys. Okay, I think our squash casserole is about ready to come out of there. Now you're going to add all of the other ingredients. So we're going to start with the lemon juice next, and that was the juice of 1/2 a lemon. And of course, depending on the size of the lemon and how soft it is, you'll be getting different amounts. Then we are going to add flour, which is going to be similar to a roux when we finish. I just don't want any lumps in the sauce. And after I have that, okay, now all we do is add our tomatoes And we are going to let it cook for a while. Okay. Now these are plum tomatoes, but any kind of tomatoes you want will work. Now stir it rapidly because it is going to it's going to thicken up more or less like a gravy. All right, now this is going to have to simmer a while. I'm going to chop these tomatoes to make them smaller pieces. I'm going to turn down the fire once it starts simmering. And then, guys, all we have to do is pull things out of the oven and check them over. All right. Now, while this is cooking, let me start checking. All right, we're going to give this a stir. It is heating up nice. It is fairly thick. You just don't want to put a sauce on your cabbage roll since you took so much work that is as thin as a tomato juice. You want an actual good sauce. So now let's start checking. All right, first thing we're going to look at is I'm assuming that this is the squash casserole, and it is. So it has been in there long enough. It's been in there a good 45 minutes. And if you look at this, the integrity of the squash has not been damaged. It still looks like squash. It's still in good firm pieces. Now the next thing that we want to do is to sprinkle some cheddar cheese on it, and then we will sprinkle breadcrumbs on it. So let me get the cheddar cheese. Okay, we are going to cover this with a nice sprinkle. All right, then we are going to cover that with our breadcrumbs, and we're going to put it back in the oven until the cheese melts, which will not take long because it's so hot, it's already beginning to melt. And on this, all you need is just a little bit. But it does make it look pretty when they're toasted. So, 5 minutes. I've got 12 minutes left on the timer, so when it gets to 7, I'll pull it out. All right, the next thing we need to check on is our blackberry cobbler. I am anxious to see this. Now, what I generally do is to take the foil off and shake it. If there's any wiggle to it at all, I put it back in the oven, but without the foil. I am so eager to see this. So, oh my word. Just look at this, guys, and it's got a lot of wiggle. Now, isn't that a blackberry deep dish cobbler? I could eat that all day. All right, now that has to go back in the oven. And I think all I'm going to do is make a loose tint on this. Let me fold it in half. And we are going to slip it in. Whoops. And my tint did not stay. Okay. All right, the squash casserole is not quite ready. You want my skillet? All right, let me get this out of the way, please. There you are, hon. And our squash is ready. Now, look at this. Isn't that a beautiful squash dish? I can't wait to eat it. Okay, so I'm going to go in the dining room and see what Dan is up to. And if you get a chance, come in and join us. And I will see you there shortly.
Well, Becky, what do we got for this evening's meal?
Okay, we're going to do a cranberry pecan salad.
I like cranberry.
And it's got feta cheese in it, which is
Okay.
a very nice cheese.
Okay.
I like it much better than the blue cheese, I'll tell you that.
That's my
Okay.
wife's favorite.
Oh, the
she's
feta?
She's from Macedonia. and
Oh, is she from
She
Macedonia?
loves feta cheese, yeah.
Well, how nice.
Yeah.
Does she know how to make it?
I don't think she knows how to make it, but she enjoys to eat it.
She knows how to buy it.
She knows how to buy it, that's
Right.
for sure.
And then we're doing a cabbage roll, but it's not an American cabbage roll. It's a German cabbage roll called halloupsi.
Okay. That's kind of scary. I'm a little bit
Sounds-
worried about that now.
Well, the reason I picked that out is that every recipe you see for American cabbage rolls, they're either made with a tomato soup-based sauce on top
Right.
or a tomato juice, and the halloupsi has a very nice sauce made out of lemons and salt and pepper, tomatoes, salt and pepper, lemon juice, and butter, and it's and then you make it put a thickener in it and make it a
so
little bit thick.
You're experimenting on me tonight then.
No, I've
Right.
made it before for
you have?
every German feast.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't remember eating.
I
Well,
experimented
I
on the
may have
American
eaten it. I
public.
didn't know I was eating it.
Well,
It sounds exotic to me.
I don't know.
I'm
We'll
looking
find
forward to
out.
it.
All right.
Okay.
Well, what's for our sides?
I'm doing a potato croquette with a cheddar cheese
Is
sauce.
that croquette or croquette?
Croquette.
Okay.
Croquette.
All right.
And then I'm doing a squash casserole. Thomas, you would not believe how many squash Danny has. And he's got at least 15 pumpkin plants. Now, what do you do with 15 to 30 pumpkins? Does each plant have two?
I'm going to eat every one of them.
Does he have a green thumb?
He had a lot of fertilizer. And I've already made my first batch of cucumber pickles, which turned out nice.
Okay. All right. Well, you'll have to bring some down to the end so we can
Okay.
eat a couple of them.
Okay, so that is, let me see, your salad, your entree, and your two sides.
Okay. What are we having for dessert?
You're having a deep dish, blackberry cobbler.
Oh, okay.
And it didn't get extremely solid because it's floating on a sea of blackberries. I put 8 cups in it.
Okay.
And I probably should have just done 6, but there's
Well,
a school
we'll be
of
the
thought
judge
that
of it.
says you can't have too many blackberries.
Okay. Well,
I'm in that school.
You're in that school?
I'm in that
you're
school.
you're starving me to death here
All
now.
right.
Let's get started. Let's have our salad.
All right, let me go find Alyssa. I'll be
Okay.
right back.
Okay. Well, let's have our salad now.
What kind of dressing do we have, Miss Becky?
We've got raspberry walnut vinaigrette or practically any dressing you want.
Okay.
But that one is a raspberry.
Okay. Well, we're going to try it here.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Thanks, Alyssa. Now, of course, we know what mine is.
It's not vinaigrette. Well, got it on my hand.
I like the old-fashioned spoonable, Thousand Ireland.
Well, all the ingredients look fresh. Are they out of my garden?
The cucumbers are out of your garden,
Okay.
because I think he planted about 50 cucumber plants, Thomas, and each one of them has about 20 blooms on them. So I've got cucumbers coming out of the eyeballs, or will have.
It's very good, Miss Becky.
Well, thank you. Did you like that raspberry?
I do. It goes great with the cranberry. It's perfect dressing.
Very good.
Now, is this more of a summer recipe? Summer salad? Or?
We've done it before in the winter, too.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's the second or third time we've done it on the show, and we've done it for a Sunday or two.
Yeah, it's
Well,
it's very fresh.
It's, it's hard to get fresh vegetables in the wintertime, but we go to Mexico and get them.
Speaking of fresh vegetables, one of our distributors didn't bring our green peppers, so I'm going to have to go to the store and get some.
Well, what about my green peppers? Did you eat
We've
them all?
already gone through those.
Oh, you're going through my.
Yeah, you should have planted more green pepper plants, honey.
How big is this garden that you have?
Well, what I did, I built a retaining wall, and behind that retaining wall, I filled it in with topsoil, and it's about 4 foot high, or 3 foot something high. It's about 6 foot deep, but it's 150 feet long. So I put a lot of vegetables in behind it too, because it's right at hand level. So,
Every time we've tried to have a garden like that, the deer will come in and get a hold of it. You guys have problems like that?
I should loan you Charlie. He's our white lab.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
He takes care of that for you.
Oh, he takes
we
care
have
of
a
that.
dog, and he takes care of the deer. He runs them out of the yard. He runs them to the edge of the yard and stops. He doesn't go up in the forest. He stops right there.
Well, I need to train my dog Gunner to do the same, I think. Maybe we should introduce them.
Yeah.
What kind of dog is Gunner?
He's a rescue dog. He's a big boy. He's a half Great Dane and half Black Lab. And it was funny because I was on military deployment and I got a phone call from my wife. And it was a total setup because they were in the pound and they called me over in the Middle East. And so she put my little girl on. My little girl's 12 years old. And so my little girl, Penny Ellie, starts telling me about this beautiful dog, and it's so pretty, and can we keep it, Papa? And then to close the deal, Sarah told me, well, it says here on his little area, he's potty trained, he's great with cats, he's great in the car, he has all these great things about him. So under pressure, I gave in to my little girl, and so we got this dog, and none of it was true. He was not potty trained. The first time he saw our cats, they were running around the house like crazy. He tried to jump out of the car. So they sold us a bill of goods, but he has a heart of gold, and we've got him trained now. So
Well, that's good.
we're very
Boy,
happy.
that takes some patience. How old was he?
We think he was about 1.5 years. We think he was about 1.5 years, but we're guessing there. So.
Well, that's about a good age to train a dog, isn't it?
It is perfect age. Perfect age.
I taught Charlie to sit, and that's about it.
You did what?
I taught him to sit.
Sit. Yeah. He sits good.
Well, I figured about every time I go on a military deployment, I come home and we have a new member of the family waiting for me in the house. That's
Oh dear.
that's the drill now.
I see. Well, you'll be retiring soon, so you won't have to worry about doing that kind of thing, hopefully.
Well, I'll still be in guard for a while.
Oh, I
just
see.
doing the weekend, more on the traditional guard status.
I see.
I really enjoy it. I don't want to.
So you're not going to quit completely? You're
No,
gonna-
no, I won't quit completely. I enjoy it too much. The folks I work with are just the best people in the world, and I really enjoy it. So.
Well, I know that your friend, your buddy that partner in crime, Harrison Gillen, enjoys the military too, and he can't wait to get out either.
He's a great guy. He's going to be my business partner here, and he has 30 years of service
years?
to West Virginia and the country, and He's a great leader, and we've got great leadership up and down in the West Virginia National Guard. We're very blessed that way.
And I suppose he's a private or something like that, isn't he? We're going to put this on television, so he'll be really enthused that I've called him a private.
That's right. That's right. You can call him a private. In real life, he's a general, but he'll respect you for your service in Vietnam, Dan. So
Well,
I think if anybody can call him a private, it would be you. So.
okay. Well, Becky, the salad's been really good and really tasty. Everything's fresh and
Delicious.
it's great, delicious salad. But I'm ready for my entree.
Okay.
So let's move on to the next plate.
Wow, that's a nice presentation.
All right, that's a lot of food, Becky.
It is a lot of food.
Okay, so this is the
That is the potato croquette.
potato
And
croquettes.
it is stuffed with green onions, celery, ham, and a little bit of cheddar cheese. And that is
Okay.
a cheddar cheese sauce on top.
And this is the
The German
cabbage roll.
cabbage roll. I keep
Okay.
wanting to say egg roll. And
Okay.
its name is halloupsi.
Halloupsi. Okay.
Is that a German word, I'm assuming?
I assume.
It must be.
All right, well, let's-
Halloupsi.
Is that how they say delicious in German?
I don't know. I don't know anyone who speaks German. Every time I fix something, they say, "Oh, how do you know it's pronounced this way?" Well, I don't
Well-
know it's pronounced that way. All right, Dan, we're watching your face.
I don't know how to speak German, but I can sure eat German. Mm.
Now, isn't that a
Very good.
good cabbage roll? Most
Very good.
people just don't fix them anymore because they're so time-consuming to make.
That's very good.
Well,
I
thank you,
hope
Thomas.
this,
That's not what I expected, but it's very good.
it's very good.
Very good. Now, is this this is a traditional German meal?
No, I don't think the squash casserole is a traditional German, but I think squash is pretty much universal all over the place.
Well, the squash is very good too. It's got, what's it got in it? Onions and,
It's got onions and butter and eggs, a little bit of sugar,
that's very
and
tasty.
salt and pepper, and Swiss American cheese.
Now, this seems like something that could really keep you warm during the winter. Stick to your ribs and
Yeah,
give you
I
some
think
sustenance.
so.
I'm gonna try this potato. So is this, how do you make this potato thing?
Well, we peeled the potatoes and cubed them, and then we cooked them and we mashed them. All right. And seasoned them, put milk in it, you know, everything you would Sunday mashed potatoes.
I see.
And then I took an ice cream scoop and filled it about a third full, and then I put our filling, and then I filled it with potatoes, and then I turned it upside down in breadcrumbs.
I see.
Took
So
it.
it's kind of like a potato cake.
It is,
I see.
but it's a
Right.
stuffed potato cake.
It's
Have you
very
tried the
tasty.
squash yet, Dan?
Oh, yeah, it's very good.
I'm going to venture in. It looks like it has some cheese on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It needs a little bit of salt, Thomas. I'm sorry, I'm so bad
I'm way ahead of you, Tom.
at judging salt.
I'm trying to catch up.
See, the recipes all say, especially mine, salt and pepper to taste, because I can never tell how much to put in. So after it's finished cooking and you taste it, it's too late to put it in because you have to sort of cook your seasonings throughout it in order for it to.
Well, it tastes like, to me, that it has enough salt in it, both of them.
I agree. I think the
Oh,
cheese
really?
the cheese helps.
Yeah, the
Maybe.
cheese.
I just want to make sure my wife Sarah sees that I'm eating my vegetables. So
All right,
for the record.
well, we'll get a copy of this and send it to her. How about that?
things that I love about this Glen Ferris Inn is just the history here. So for you guys, what's one of the favorite things, in your opinion, about the history of this inn or this area?
Well, the original owner, I think, was quite a person, Aaron Stockton, with his abilities to develop all these businesses that he had here, the timbering, the coal mining, the restaurant, the hotel inn concept, and the people from Wells Fargo stopped here and had the stagecoach here and that kind of thing. And of course, as the years went by, you know, then the Civil War happened, and there were troops here, and there were 2 generals stayed here during the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
Henry Clay stayed here.
And he was an attorney and a statesman.
He was, yeah. He was 3 times. Henry Clay was 3 times Speaker of the House of Representatives, and he was actually Secretary of State under John Quincy Adams also.
And he was known as the great orator, wasn't he?
He was, but you know, he ran for president 5 times. He founded the Whig Party, but he lost 5 times.
Yeah.
So, almost President Clay.
Right.
But he's still known as the Great Compromiser.
Well, Tom, tell us about the Orient Express and your son. Let us know about that information.
Oh, you want to hear that story? Well,
yeah.
So a few years ago, my son Hunter was diagnosed with bone cancer, and you know, praise God, he's cancer-free right now. But when we were in the process of chemotherapy and going through the treatment at the hospital at Johns Hopkins, the Make-A-Wish Foundation contacted us and offered my son a wish. Now he loves trains, and he'll love this place because you've got the train tracks on either side. But his dream was to go on the Orient Express, and so he made that request to Make-A-Wish, and it was a bit of an extravagant request because it's a very luxurious train. It's arguably the best train in the world, and doggone, they granted his wish. So our whole family got to go on the Orient Express, courtesy of the Make-A-Wish Foundation and the generous donors that support it. And we flew into Venice, got to stay there 2 or 3 days, boarded the train. They treated my son Hunter like a VIP. It was really special, something we'll never forget. And we went to Prague, and we have family in Prague. My brother-in-law's a chef there. And then from Prague, we went to Paris. Now, there's only been 2 people in the history of the Orient Express train that have been allowed to come up and drive the train with the conductor. And one is the actor from the Poirot series who did the TV Murder on the Orient Express show. So that actor, Poirot, and then my son, Hunter.
That is something.
The second person to drive the train ever. Yeah.
Well, he'll remember that his whole life.
Yeah.
We all will. It was magical. Yeah.
That's great. I like that story.
It's one of the, if not the most beautiful natural setting in the entire state of West Virginia.
It is a very pretty place.
It is
and I grew
beautiful.
up here. But I think of it every time I get up and I come off the hill and I see the sun coming up and how beautiful the river and the mountains are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just been a wonderful place for me to grow up and live and be a part of the history of Glen Ferris, because every day we're making history as well. And
Yeah.
so
Well, you
my
guys,
legacy is that we owned the inn here for many, many years, and we took care of the inn and tried to keep it in good shape and work it so that we could serve the guests and have the people stay here. And we've enjoyed running the inn, and Becky just loves it. Thanks.
I have
A love-hate relationship?
love-hate relationship with it. When everything goes fine and everything is all smiling, you couldn't ask a better place. But Maybe once a year you have one of those days where you get up and your cell phone won't work, your cell phone won't charge, which happened to me today.
Well,
And I moved it from my charging station to the iPad charging station to yours for 2 hours, and it didn't charge not one iota. Brought it down
that
here.
doesn't have anything to do with the
I
Glen
know,
Ferris Inn.
but once something goes wrong, it's just wrong the whole day.
Oh,
You
the
might
whole
as
day
well
went
just
wrong.
go home, get
Well,
in
I
bed,
thought you-
and read a book.
Well, I thought you did a great job on the meal here.
Well, thank you,
You
Daddy.
didn't burn too much.
I was very careful.
You didn't trip and fall.
Well, that's always an option.
Well, we appreciate you guys giving us the honor. Really, it is an honor to pass us the torch and to steward a property like this, which really, in my opinion, is one of the gems of the state of West Virginia. And it's
I think it is too. I've heard people who were talking and describing things to me, and they'd say, "This is West Virginia's best kept secret. You need to stop letting it be a secret."
well, Lord willing, we'll take care of that problem, Miss Becky. But
Well, I wanted to keep it all to myself. Because I enjoy it. I enjoy the meals, and I enjoy the camaraderie with the people who come to stay here and we get to visit with. And we've really enjoyed running the inn and being a part of the history of West Virginia and the history of Glen Ferris. So
yeah, this property is
hopefully you all will
certain-
have a good time as we have and go through all the ups and downs and in the end of the whole show, it's you'll like it. But we're going to continue to do the cooking show here, Becky and I, because she loves to cook, and we're going to help you all as much as we possibly can and help you all run the inn, and we'll be here for a while
And prosper.
and prosper. We hope that you all prosper.
Yeah, we're delighted to hear that. We're excited for you guys to keep the show here, and you know, a lot of different parts of the states are going through different seasons, and some parts are struggling, some folks are struggling. But you know, I personally believe that our best days are ahead of us, and I want to invest in West Virginia. And like I said, you guys passing us the torch to trust us to steward this state asset, which it really is. It's an honor, and I'm humbled. So thank you.
Okay. Let's try it.
You're so excited you can't remember what we're eating here.
I
Dan.
know.
It looks that good.
He's going to have to do the dishes, Thomas.
Oh,
I
see.
see. See, if you complain about the meal, you got to do dishes.
You know, I've never seen you complain about the food on this show.
Never have.
I used 8 cups of blackberries and 3 cups of sugar.
Delicious.
It's
Is it
very
perfect?
good.
Okay.
It's
Thank
very
you.
good. And I think 8 cups was right on the money. Now, Becky, what does that mean when you say a deep dish? Blackberry
Well,
cobbler.
I cook it in a pan like this,
Yeah.
and our regular cobblers are this way. And whenever it's cooking and it raises, it's about that high, and you have to be real careful how you handle it, because one, you have to cover it with foil to keep it from burning, and then it raises so high that it sticks to the top of your cobbler and tears it up. So that's why it's called a deep dish cobbler.
Oh, I see. Well, that's very good. I like the bread part of it. The crust, I mean.
Oh, it sure is good with this vanilla ice cream, too. That hits the spot.
My grandson and I were out this weekend. We went on the mountain with our four-wheelers, and we found a lot of raspberries. They're just coming right now. And we had a really good wet spring, so all of the raspberries are full. And but we ate all we picked, so we didn't have any for a pie.
That's why it's a blackberry cobbler tonight.
That's the reason we didn't have the raspberry cobbler, because we ate all the raspberries. But we did see some bear sign where the bears had been in feeding on the raspberries, so they're out moving around and eating on the berries.
Well, that's why I won't go up in the woods now.
Well, we were on a four-wheeler, and they're shy, and they stay away from us.
They're friendly neighbors up in the woods.
Well, I can't eat anymore. I shouldn't have had those last 2 bites of the potato croquettes.
Well, I tried to keep you from eating too much. But this is really good, Becky.
It is.
Very tasty.
Now, Dan, do you grow blackberries or raspberries in your garden?
No, but when I was young and lived with my parents, we raised them. We had regular raspberries and blackberries that were, what do you call it, cultured or
Cultivated?
cultivated. They weren't wild. They were, we raised
Domestic.
them. And
I
we
remember-
made a lot of those, the cobblers my mother did. And she also made a lot of the jellies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Raspberry jelly, grape jelly, blackberry jelly.
Now,
what's
I
the other
remember
one?
her having blueberries up her hillside.
Right, we had blueberries as well. And we just, living in the farming environment, we had a lot of berries and stuff. We ate those all.
Now, if you feel uncomfortable with a huckleberry, I could take a dewberry or a tea berry or a gooseberry.
We didn't have those.
See,
None of those.
Now you're starting to get fancy on us, Becky.
That's right.
well,
that's right.
Grandma Pisanity had about 4 or 5 farms, Grandma and Grandpa,
Yeah.
and each one of them, they had a specialty berry. And so when we went to see them, they'd pile us in the back of their vehicle and would go here for huckleberries, would go there for gooseberries. And when they lived up in the woods, we could walk down from her house to a little rackety bridge that I wouldn't have driven over for anything now. And she had wild tea berries all over the place. And to the best of my knowledge, we're the only people in the world who's tasted a tea berry. Most
I
people
haven't
didn't even know
tasted
they
them.
existed. You know the tea berry gum that they used to
Oh, yeah,
have?
yeah.
They taste exactly like that gum.
Okay.
Now you're a licensed canner.
I
right?
am.
So what's the best kind of berry if you're going to can?
Oh, I don't know. Strawberry, I'd say.
Why is that?
Well, because one, you can, they're almost everywhere. You can get them in any store. There are farms where you can go and pick them for, say, a quarter or 50 cents a quart. You can get them at the farmer's market of Golly Bridge. In fact, Dan came down one Wednesday and said they've got strawberries up there. But I don't know what I was doing. Why wouldn't I go get the strawberries at the farmer's market?
You were busy with a wedding or something.
Oh, I knew there was something. And
Well, Becky, you've done another great meal for me and my guest, and we appreciate it. And I guess I'll keep you a couple of more weeks.
we're on a 2-week minimum here.
So you did a really great job, and
Everything
we
was
appreciate it.
outstanding.
And we appreciate Tom coming and being with us, and hopefully him and his partner, Private Gilliam, will make a success here at the inn as well. And we're going to continue to do the cooking show and be a part of the inn as well. So, good night. Thanks for watching Dining with Dan and Becky at the Glen Ferris Inn. We'll see you next week.
Okay. Good
night,
night.
everybody.
Good night.
See you next time.